Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of God Built This Podcast. I'm your host Maxine. We're on episode 130. We in the 30s. I'm 30. Okay, welcome. Let's get into these topics. I want to start off by talking about Love Island. Love Island is definitely one of those shows that you have to take in doses. And who knows how long I will continue watching this show, but I'm glad that I watched it until the end of the whole Cinco, Cash, Trina, and Charlie saga. So let's get into that. I know in previous episodes I sounded very in support of Cash. Things have changed. Things have changed. And I'm saying that in the same respect that I have for her in regards to the similarities that I've had in her upbringing, and my upbringing, and the whole pretty privilege conversation. I was so blinded by that conversation or by that topic that I was immediately team Cash. I was immediately on her side just because I connected with her so well on that topic of pretty privilege and growing up in a world or in a society during my childhood that did not accept or recognize my type of beauty as beauty. So I connected with Cash very, very much on a soul level. But things have changed. I think now that we've moved forward from that connection, like, okay, cool, we connect there. And I had my little moment. I don't want to say little, I don't want to dismiss it, but I had my moment with that topic. I am looking at Cash more holistically outside of the pity party of I'm not pretty enough, right? And I'm saying that in myself too. Like, so that's just me giving myself own some judgment, I guess. But basically, I'm looking at her differently just because when I think about the very first episode of Love Island, something that she said really rubbed me the wrong way. It just made me cringe. And it wasn't even something that I necessarily related to that made me take it personal. I felt sorry for whom she said it to. And that's why I felt cringy when I heard what she said. So if you guys remember in the first episode when they were introducing the guys to the villa, one of the guys that they introduced to the girls, his name is Christian. And he's kind of skinny. Like he's not too muscular. He seems kind of wimpy, maybe fragile, whatever, China glass, whatever type of guy. White guy, super platinum blonde hair. And he just has that surfer bod, but like super laid back surfer bod. He's not unattractive, but he's not, I guess, GQ or whatever, I guess. And what's interesting about that is a few episodes later, Cash talks about her experience of not being picked and not being seen and not being considered and not being desired. And for her to make the comment to Christian on the very first episode, she said to him, "Oh, well, you look like you could use some meat on your bones, or I need to feed you." That, though maybe it's done in the disguise of humor, right? Though it may be done in a lighthearted manner, it is still nasty in a way to say that to somebody, especially upon meeting them. I think with these shows, you want, maybe as the cast member on the show, you maybe want to stand out to the audience, to the viewers, to the crowd, and have these like catchy one-liners and be this personality that is unforgettable. So I think maybe that is something that she was riding on. But she has said a lot of things that I'm noticing is just rude. Just like old fucking rude. Just rude. Like, you don't say that to somebody. And when she said that, it's just so ironic because sometimes the ones who've been oppressed, right, on any level, become the oppressor at some point. And that's just the way the shit is, unfortunately. Like, oh, now that you have a little bit of money now, right? And I'm just speaking in general terms at this point. Now that you have a little bit of money now, you're going to shit on those who don't have money, and you're going to forget how life was when you didn't have money. Because at one point in your life, for a very long time, you didn't have money, you didn't have status, you didn't have popularity. But now at this point in your life, you may have all those things, and now you forget how it felt prior to that. And when Cash made that comment to Christian about just basically shitting on his natural physical body, that's just how he looks naturally. And he may not look attractive to you, but to say that comment, it just is very ironic because you think about, wow, she's someone who experienced being discriminated against because she did not fit this mold of beauty for women for a very long time throughout her childhood and her adolescent years and even in her adulthood at some points. So to then oppress someone else for their natural appearance, it's just very interesting. It's shitty behavior. And I've also mentioned how throughout these few episodes, all the episodes that I've watched, I noticed something about Cash that irritates me. And what I'm about to say right now may sound problematic. I hate that word, but I can't find another word to use in this moment. But problematic to me is when she speaks the way that she does. Okay, and just give me a second. Because I know people be like, what are you talking about? Black people can't speak with strong grammar skills, and you trying to say black people can't articulate their words, and what does sounding white sound like? Shut up. You know what I'm talking about. Like, can we cut this shit? There is a voice that black people that we put on when we're talking to customer service, when we're code switching at work. Even, I know not everyone does it, not every black person does it, but at some point in your life you may have had to, or felt like you had to, switch it up, code switch it just to fit the norms and be accepted by your white counterparts who play the majority at your workplace, who play the majority at the field that you're trying to progress in. So you will whitewash yourself to fit in. That is honestly just how shit is. And it's more common than we give it credit for. I think now we live in a time when people are trying to say, I'm real, catch me as I am. And I appreciate that because I am seeing that more reflective at my own workplace, where I'm seeing more black people just being black, just being who they are in their whole selves. And it's such a contrast to what I've experienced at my workplace in previous establishments where I worked with black fellow colleagues, and they talked a little different. They talk like Cash. They talk with this white voice they put on, like, yeah, oh really, oh yeah, like there's this elongation with words. There's this like tone, this high-pitched tone that is just consistent. And I'm just trying to think about, why did you make this choice? Why are you still choosing to speak this way? And it's so much so that it seems to be embedded into who Cash is. Like, maybe she just speaks this way, but I think it started from a place of feeling like she had to speak that way. You see what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it starts from a place of, well, I am surrounded by white people all around me, and I can't speak the way my mom speaks or my dad speaks or my brother or my sister speaks. So I have to speak like these white people to fit in, to get that white boyfriend who is the only boyfriend or guy around my neighborhood, my school. So I look at Cash and I think about like that voice that she uses every time she speaks. It just sounds very performative. That's what I think about every time I look at her, every time I observe her, when it comes to her speech, when it comes to her behavior, even how she is with Trina and this whole girl power trip that they're on. Can we cut the shit? We were just pining over the same guy, okay? And we're crying over this guy together. I never understood that when I would see in movies or even like in celebrity stories where the other woman and the wife or the main girlfriend, whomever, come together and cry over the guy who deceived them. And I'm just thinking, like, I wouldn't ever want to speak to the other. Like, I don't want to come to you woman to woman. I'm not interested in that conversation. I want no parts. I feel like we don't have to play this role of this girl power and, you know, I encourage women, I support women, when I don't give a fuck about this woman, right? And I think about Cash, and yes, it's a game. We're on a TV show, where on this reality show, we're competing. It's not necessarily like blatant competitions, but it is a subliminal competition. It is still a competition show because at the end, apparently they receive monetization, has an incentive for making it to the end, and they receive some amount of money, which I believe is $50,000. Again, it's my first time watching this season, watching this show. This is my first season that I'm watching, so I'm still understanding it and still trying to figure out exactly how are the winners chosen. Either way, it's fake. It's fake. And what performative means to me is just fake shit. I hate that fake girl shit. We're girls, so we have to be friends. No, we don't. We don't. Just because you're another woman like me, you're not my sis, okay? You're not auntie. You're not a second mom. No, you are just another female in my life. And when I look at this show in particular, you see all the girls just like clamoring away. I love you. You're my best friend. Or even some of them would say you're my best friend in this house. So they make it specific to that. But I feel like can we just not do that? Like, can we just not? And maybe that's me coming from a place of not easily being vulnerable to people. But I am also very cognizant of fake shit. I just hate fake behavior. I hate people just suddenly being friends because, oh, it looks good to be friends, right? So when you look at Trina and Cash, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck that we're the only two black women on the show. You're still not gonna be my friend. I'm still not interested in getting to know you deeper. I still don't want to hear you cry. If I was Cash and I walk into the dressing room that they all share, that the women share with each other, and I see Trina in the corner crying about Cinco, I'll be like, okay, and I'm just gonna walk out. Huh? So you mean to tell me I'm going to walk towards you, rub your back, allow you to cry on my shoulder about this man who you want, but he is now realizing he wants me? Like, how do you even receive that? And I think about Trina, like, how are you even receiving that? I wouldn't want to talk to you either. And just off principle, not to say like you're a bitch or I want to talk down on you. I just don't really care to be, I don't get that. as much as I can compartmentalize my feelings and even some of my thoughts, I also don't like the fake shit. So if I know that you're with someone who I want to be with, and though he may not want me back, I still just don't want to fuck with you. So like that, I don't want to have any opportunity, any room to befriend you, to be sister girl, to, can we not? So anyway, overall, I think Cash has a performative spirit in her. I think it is very fake. I think anybody who's performative, and let's talk about he, him, his, her, I go by she, no, I'm a they, is also performative. And I can't stand anyone who does that shit. It's so fake. It's so fake. It's so fake. I'm now seeing pronouns included in people's bio, included in people's name, next to their credentials. I see your pronouns, your preferred pronouns. And I'm just reading this. I'm like, oh, this is where we are right now. There are people in North Korea dying from a Holocaust, and you're telling me to call you by they because you can't decide if you're a he or a she today. People are dying in North Korea. Literally, they can't leave North Korea. They are trapped in North Korea. They can't escape. You can't go to North Korea. It's not like, oh, I'm traveling to Indonesia and I'm gonna stop by North Korea and I'm gonna, go to Thailand. No. There's no airport. There's no destination to North Korea. Okay? And here we have in America talking about I go by he, she, and sometimes they on Saturdays. What? Is this? Is everybody okay? Is my mic on? Are you okay? You're being no, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And look, I also don't want to maintain this commitment to the oppressive language that is English grammar, that is American style language, right? So I also, so I get that argument, but I also just like coming from an English teacher perspective is even more irritating when a singular person demands that I call them a them. You see what I mean? A singular person wants me to use a plural, a collective noun to describe a singular, a one person. This is what we're doing. So now we're contradicting everything that we were raised to believe, that we were conditioned to believe. And yes, there's a lot of unlearning and conditioning that we have to break free from. But grammar, I will not. I am committed. If I'm not committed to anything else, it is grammar, motherfucker. You are not going to tell me to call you a they when you are one person. This is not America. People are dying in North Korea. I'm talking about the pronoun. I just think the perspective that we have here in America is awfully strange. And I'm bringing up North Korea because I was listening to the Rogan podcast and I was so taken aback by this woman's history, her upbringing, her trauma that she experienced while living in North Korea, while being born and raised in North Korea, and having to escape, literally having to escape from a land. And yes, you hear these stories from like even Haiti or Cuba or just other like lands, but like those lands are more considered third world countries, right? There was a massive war and there are these refugees who come to America and here comes Jesus in a manger. These types of stories are different. But North Korea this is a land that is ahead of its time. This is a country that is ahead of its time, that is ahead of America, light years ahead of America. And for them to be under such torture, for North Koreans to be under such torture, and this is the podcast episode specifically with guest. Her name is Yeomi Park. I believe she's the only Asian guest of the last recent episode, so just find that, and it's on Spotify. But anyway, seeing that she was in a country that didn't allow for them to eat, they couldn't grow their own food, they couldn't even. It's one thing to not have free speech. No, I can't even imagine living in a world and not having free speech. But it's to the point where free speech is so restricted in North Korea that even if you dared to even think, because I think that it's to the point where it could get to, oh, you thought badly about Kim Jong-un? Oh, I'm going to get you type of thing. But it's to the point where even if you whisper any disgust, any disdain for this leader, for this dictator, then you are going to be executed in 2 minutes. And I'm not even being dramatic. It's to the point where as soon as you even dare to speak against any leadership, any government that is in place in North Korea, your life is over. And if it's not over by death, it is over by a slow death, because you're going to be in prison for 10, 20, 12, 15 years. And that's just what it is. She was recounting many instances where if you were speaking badly about the dictator, there are people around you that are spies, that are literally undercover spies, and they have to snitch on you. They have to, because whoever is spying on you, someone is spying on them, and it is happening in the room. So whether there are actual people in the room or cameras, audio, whatever it is, it's actually freaking me out right now talking about it, so I'm gonna wrap it up real quick. But no matter what it is, you will be told against. People will hear what you're saying, and you will be prosecuted accordingly. There are public lynchings, public executions that are done in North Korea if you dare to speak out against anybody. Every household has to have a mural basically for the dictator, and say if your house burns down, there's a fire, there's damage, you have to leave with that mural clean, no dust, nothing. And it has to be at a particular angle in your home so that dust cannot be collected on it. Y'all, the story is so and I'm not saying unbelievable to like dismiss her story, but it feels so crazy that it's like, wait, this was your reality? I'm just still taken aback by the story, so that's why I'm still talking about it. It's been like a week since I last listened to that episode, and I finished the whole episode, but I was just so taken aback by it. And I'm glad that she's alive to still tell her story, but it's just so sad that, we don't know how we could have been brought into this world. It is such a place of gratitude that we could come from, recognizing that, okay, we were born in quote unquote the land of the free. We were born in America. And though we have many issues here, there still is many areas of improvement. But my God, if y'all don't stop with the pronouns, just go to North Korea and figure out another issue. But seriously, it's just really, it puts a lot of things into perspective. Anyway, why did I go there? I don't remember. But cash is performative, and I'm not here for it. I want to get into Charlie. Charlie. What do y'all think about? What do y'all think I'm gonna say about Charlie? Maybe I was bamboozled. Maybe maybe he did have real feelings for her, or maybe not. Now, if you watch and recognize their chemistry from the first house that they were in, you see that there was seemingly some intensity, some strong feelings or whatnot between them. And now that they're in the house with Cinco, or that they were in the house with Cinco, there's a shift. There's a shift in the atmosphere. And you notice Charlie is not as confident, or maybe not as persistent. But then I wonder, was he always that way in general? Is he, because I was interested in going back to the previous episodes to really dissect his behavior. But because I didn't have the episodes on my record on DVR, I would have to wait. I couldn't fast forward the already on demand episodes, so I didn't want to go through that. So it was like, whatever, I'll just go through my memory. But basically, you have Charlie, who is suddenly different. He said he was not going to be fazed by Cinco, but I think he maybe was fazed, or maybe he realized that Cash has feelings for Cinco that he cannot compete with, and so he's going to distance himself. And he also does have a point, because you think about every time Cash and Charlie were talking, Cash was always talking about Cinco, always talking about her feelings for Cinco, always talking about she doesn't know, and what she has with Cinco, it doesn't just go away overnight, all these things. And it's like, okay, any man, even though Charlie was acting like he was gonna be good and he's fine and he knows what he brings to the table, any man, I feel like, any person really, I feel like, would be bothered by that and would have been distanced themselves. I know I would. So I understand. I just also am wondering, because I'm reading all the Reddit responses, a lot of the Reddit responses about this, the dynamic, and I'm seeing that, maybe Charlie was playing a role and he fooled us all, and he was only trying to get to the villa, and he got to the villa, and now that he's to the villa, he is trying to find another woman to snatch onto. Now he is feeling, what's her name, Ariana, that white woman who's kind of thick and pretty girl. I think with Charlie, though, even though he said he's into her, I still can't tell. He's hard to read. He seems too laid back. He is like, are you high right now? Like, what's, something going on? I don't know and Cash recognizes that he doesn't really make the first move. He's not as energetic as she is. And I think sometimes when you're with someone who is low energy and you're very high energy, there could be some level of mismatch happening. Maybe she was perceiving that as, maybe he doesn't desire, maybe he doesn't want me. And it could be that, or it could also just be there's just two different energies and he's not as out there as she is. Like, she was upset that he didn't want to wrestle with her the way that Cinco wanted to wrestle with her, or at all, because Charlie wasn't trying to wrestle with her at all. And I don't want to ruin it for anyone who didn't watch the latest episode to see exactly what happened with Charlie, Cash, etc. So I may leave that out of this episode, but get up to date. But I'm sitting back thinking, I don't think Charlie's a bad guy. I think Charlie just had enough, but I feel like he didn't really fight for Cash. I don't think he really tried to pursue her while in the house with Cinco. And though Cash picked Charlie, he felt like he was annoyed with that picking. Remember when they were in the kitchen and she's like, it was literally 5 minutes prior to them having the conversation though, but she's like, I choose you, I chose you, with her voice, her white ass voice. And then Charlie's just standing there looking like, what? Like annoyed that she chose him, annoyed that she finally made a decision and the decision was for him. So I think Charlie, which just make me wonder, was Charlie really in there for the right reasons? Was he really trying to be with Cash? Who knows? But either way, I think Cash is performative and I'm annoyed with it. This whole Friendship Island that's happening on the Love Island this season is really making me annoyed. These girls are not your friends, okay? They're gonna vote you out. The guys are not your friends. That, like, sure, make the best of it for the moment, but like, don't make this moment everything. And so, yeah, I have a little 180 degree on Cash. I don't like how she has been handling some things. I feel like she's rude. I definitely recognize some performative spirit in her, and I'm just not for it. So that's that on that. Let's talk about Married at First Sight. Married at First Sight has started its 13th season. Is this 13th season? Well, this latest season. And I am so looking forward to this season. I'm up to date with all the episodes, and I want to just get into Michaela, and Zach. Michaela, I remember there's this girl I went to high school with, and I actually went to middle school with, and I hated her. She was a bitch. But she looks nothing like the Michaela from this season, just FYI. But yeah, that's my history with that name. So when I found out that's her name, I was like, oh, this bitch. And she was gay before I knew what gay was. Or before gay was like a trend, I guess, not to sound insensitive, but like before everyone was gay. What's going on with this episode? I'm talking about he, she, him, they. I'm talking about gay. No, but y'all know what I'm talking about. You get what I'm saying? I'm saying she was one of the first ones. I'm saying, like, I didn't really see a lot of gay people, and she was one of the first ones I've seen in my schooling years. So that's that on that. And she was a bitch. I remember one time I was in high school and it was in the cafeteria. I was in line to heat up my food in the microwave, and I guess my food took longer than her patience, and she's like behind this ghetto ass black, that's why, look, anyway, but she was like yelling at me. What did she say? And at that time in my life, I wasn't as vocal as I am now. I was still very much passive in some ways. And I was so sad. I was so hurt. I still heated up my food, but I went off. But she was just so angry. She was so I still remember that. I remember because my sister's 4 years apart, 4 years older than me. And so when I was in high school, she was in college. So after that moment, I went to the bathroom, called my sister, crying. Oh, what a time. But anyway, Michaela, I don't like that bitch. But anyway, Michaela from this season of Married at First Sight. What happened? So Michaela may be a bit crazy. Michaela may be a bit crazy. She may not be all the way there. And we're going to see some things unfold. Now, who knows if her crazy is warranted, actually. Because as much as I'm saying the word right now, I don't like using that word to describe women in particular. Because it is so dismissive. And I think sometimes when there is a chemical imbalance, because sometimes it could be a chemical imbalance, there is just this dismissive attitude when it comes to just women and their feelings and all that stuff. So And this is coming from a triggering point for me because obviously with previous guys, particularly Boston Bay, I was called crazy and there was no sympathy had. There was no understanding. There was no compassion. So I think instantly when people are labeled as crazy, when women in particular are labeled as crazy, there is no compassion associated with your judgment, because otherwise it wouldn't be a judgment. It'll be a conversation. It'll be an understanding, all this stuff. So, but I think Michaela's kind of crazy though. So I'm kidding. It's a joke. It's a joke. No, but so we see a sneak preview for the season, and we see that Michaela. It's Michaela. I think it's Michaela. Michaela is going off. She's shutting the door in our face because, as viewers, we're seeing it from the perspective of the camera. And she's shutting the door in our face in front of the camera. And she is mad at the other couple for not stopping Zach from driving off. And I think there's a couple things to note here. Since we met Zach and Michaela, I noticed definitely a difference in energy. Okay, let's bring it back to Cache and Charlie. Charlie is someone who seems to be very passive and not even in a negative way, just kind of like laid back and chill and to himself, and maybe introverted will be a descriptor for him that works, but he's all of these things, while Cash is absolutely not those things. She is more out there, more boisterous, more charismatic, and neither personality is right or wrong, right? It's just who they present themselves to be. And when you look at Michaela and Zach, you see the same thing here. You see Zach being someone who is very passive, and to the point where his passivity is very much so sensitivity, is not to say it's a bad thing, but it's very much so cry at an instant. Very much so, is he a protector? I'm wondering. I think about men like that, like Zach, and I'm wondering, can you fight? Hello? Yes. This is the question for you. Can you fight? Can you fight? If we're at an alley, people be like, if we're at an alley and I get robbed, would you protect me? Why would we be at an alley? Where's the Uber? Are we in a car? But we're just so happy to be walking down an alley in New York City of all places that you have to be vaccinated. We'll talk about that. Child. But I'm wondering, can he fight? Like, does the nigga card come up? Is it put on the table? Is it pushed forward? Is it provoked? Is his nigga card, is it taken out when he is in an argument, when he's playing spades, when he's playing Uno? I don't know how to play spades. I'm not Black American, I guess, but I don't know how to play spades. But Uno, you don't want to see me at Uno, okay? But when does the nigga card come out? I think with Zach, his passivity is so much so that I don't know if I could be protected in his arms. Like, I don't know if we're out in public, if I gotta be on guard as well. And this sounds so discouraging, what I'm saying, because it's like, damn, there are men out there who are very much like a Zach in some ways. There are men out there who are just very sensitive and very passive and very chill and laid back, and nothing is wrong with that. But I just want to know, can you fight? Hello? Can you fight? Just answer that question. Just answer that for me, and then we can work from there. Can you fight, and do you have a big... No, but seriously, can you fight? Hello? And I'm wondering that with Zach, especially as I feel like it has big of a mouth, literally and figuratively, as Michaela has. I feel like they could be in situations where she said too much and she offended the couple next to her, and the guy is defending his woman, and Zach will have to step up and defend Michaela. So I'm wondering, can he do that? Can he defend me? And I don't know. And I feel like I would know if I saw him in that light. Not to say he has to start fighting, or I just want to know, how does he lead? Is he a leader? Do you know how to lead a situation? Do you know how to talk me down? And we see in the sneak preview, it's a sneak preview, but I'm seeing that Zach seems to be the type of guy who drives in reverse at an instant, who is backpedaling as soon as he can. And that is such a turnoff to me. So though, who knows what could have happened in that moment, if he's warranted or not to have reacted very passively as he did. It's just sometimes when people act like that, when people are very quick to shut down, very quick to just walk away and not fight. That's what I'm saying. Like, can you fight? Can you physically fight? Not to say he needs to fight Michaela, just in general. Like, do you know how to fight niggas? Like, do you know how to speak up? Do you know how to yell? Do you know how to be aggressive? Do you know how to get loud? Yeah, let me tell you about a moment that me and Freckles Bay had. Not to say he fought me. No. But we was at dinner, and this waiter comes to us, gives us peppermint tea after we requested for green tea. And we was hitting these green teas the whole time during our vacation. And we're like, oh no, this isn't green tea. We asked for green tea. And the waiter, who's this man, what is he? This Hispanic Dominican man, he's like, no, this is the same thing as green tea. Freckles Bay got buck. That Chicago came out. He was like, no, it's not. And I watched him, and I want to say everything in my body got hot. Hello, is the mic on? Everything in my body, I saw it. Not to say I was questioning whether Freckles Bay, no. I always knew he was this protector. But seeing it in the moment, very just off the whip, was such a turn on. I was like, close the door, everybody. Put the guns down. Put the knife down. Put the butter knife down. Is it green tea or not? Freckles Bay's like, no, it's not green tea. No, it's not. the fuck is not. Yeah. We laughed about it right after, which is what I love about him. Like, we could, like, he could get into like just a moment, a tiff or whatever, with something that's happening around us, and we'll laugh about it, or vice versa, and it's just great. But seeing him in that moment was like, whoo, my body got hot. My body got hot. Everything got hot. The heat was on. And it's just in those moments, we see whether or not if that nigga could fight. Can you fight? So, not to say I needed that. Again, I didn't need that confirmation. But when you see that confirmation in very brief moments, oh my God. Okay, we good. But yeah, was it green tea? No, it wasn't. So when I look at Zach, and I'm like, Zach, does he get booked? If a waiter were to come up to him and be like, this peppermint tea that I gave you, even though you asked for green tea, is the same as green tea, and Zach is like, oh, okay, no problem, man, don't worry about it. I'm gonna look at Zach like, oh, he can't fight. Oh, if I were to have an attitude with somebody who gave me the wrong order and who tried to play me, try to gaslight me, try to tell me that it's raining when you're just pissing in my face, then I know that Zach is not someone who would have my back. Zach is not someone who would really show up for me in times of defense. in times of attack, when it's time to fight and time to be buck, because there's times for that. There's a season for everything, right? So Zach doesn't present himself as someone who could fight, at least not as of yet. So we'll see. I don't want to quickly just diminish him as a bitch ass nigga, but the bitch ass is coming out. This little bitch, it's the bi for me. It's the first part of it. So we'll see if the tish ass nigga part comes out later. But I'm seeing the bi, and I'm wondering, can this nigga fight or not? Because child, I don't know. So we see that there is a couple of moments at least, that is had between he and Michaela, and I'm wondering, is she to blame? She said a comment though, that's why you're a liar. He may have lied about something. So I'm really waiting to see what could this be. Who could it be now? What's going on? But when I think about Zach though, he said a couple of things in the beginning of the first few episodes, when the episode when we get to know each person. He said how he's never been in love before. He said how he hasn't been in much of a long-term relationship. The longest relationship he's been in was 9 months. And there's something to be said about that. I don't want to shame short relationship folks, because I've been there. I've had more situationships than relationships. So I'm not. Look, maybe it says a lot about someone's. I don't know. Well, I do know, but I think sometimes it could be a commitment phobia thing. It could be insecurity thing, as far as not feeling like you're worthy of love, or it could be just it's a couple of things. But Zach has shown a lot of things that makes me wonder, there's some inner work that he has to do, which is all of us. We all have to do some inner work. But for him, I'm noticing that he was bullied growing up. He was in a all white or predominantly white school. So him being a dark-skinned black man, he was not considered attractive, which is so strange because wow, but it's so real, because you have someone like me who been through that on the flip side, right? Growing up, and to see and hear that, oh wow, there are dark-skinned men who's had that same experience. And not to say I was ignorant to that, but I just don't hear about that enough, or at least I haven't heard about that lately, because dark-skinned guys have always been, in my perspective, just like God, like, wow, you've been kissed by God type of men. And light-skinned guys were always the one who's like, oh, you acting light-skinned, right? Some Drake type of nigga. But it's just so funny. So when he was sharing that history, I was so taken aback, like, oh my gosh, of course there are dark-skinned men who's had a similar experience to me growing up, especially growing up in a all-white school. Like, wow, that's definitely understandable. So there's insecurity there, and so it bleeds into him in these relationships in his life. He's probably had a lot of situationships, short-term things, and his longest relationship was only 9 months, and he's never allowed himself to go further in his feelings and to be vulnerable and to go deep and to be emotional and fall in love and all these things. And so adding all that up together, Zach is presenting himself as someone who is just not emotionally present, who's not emotionally available, not yet at least. And maybe this experience, whether he chooses to stay with, whether both he and Michaela choose to stay with each other after the 8 weeks or not, hopefully this experience could encourage him to stand in stand in himself, stand in his authority, and be comfortable in his identity and be more open to love, hopefully. But I'm seeing a lot of pain there. So I'm hoping that he could grow, and maybe Michaela could be someone who could help him with that. But he seems to be a liar, according to what Michaela said. Maybe there was just a moment of miscommunication. Whatever the case is, can that nigga fight? Hello? Is the mic on? Can the nigga fight? And that's the tea for today. Merla and Gil. Merla. Whew, Merla. Child, I get why she was single for so long. But someone to be has high maintenance and has picky and just very rigid as she is, I wish her the best. Because, I wish Gil the best. That's really who I wish the best for. He seems like someone who's very patient, or I hope he is, but he seems like he's someone who could be patient, who could be compassionate and easygoing. So Merla might be someone who he could work with. I just hope that she's open to being worked on. She said that she doesn't want to change her lifestyle, and she's lived this way she's worked hard to live a certain way, and I understand that you are within your right to do so, but I think there should be some level of compromise between you and your partner. So I don't know with her. I think she's a little boring too. I don't know when the personality comes out, what will happen then. So we'll see. Rachel and Jose. Jose reminds me of Leprechaun Bay, and I'm thinking about that because of the height and because of this perfectionistness that they have. Leprechaun Bay was very much so a perfectionist, and if you didn't look the part, you weren't right. It doesn't matter how great of a personality I had, right? But I'm talking about the past. But like, has great of a personality as I had at that time, and has great of a character that I was to him at the time, or just in general at the time. It wasn't enough if I didn't have my hair done. It wasn't enough if I didn't wear a little bit of makeup here and there. It wasn't enough. So I look at Jose and I'm wondering, I wonder if Rachel, thankfully she's someone who does care about her health and her fitness and goals and stuff like that. But I'm wondering if in times when she is not 100%, will Jose be someone who could still love her or still want to love her and want to be with her? So, yeah, something with these short niggas. It's just like, they all have this Napoleon complex. And it's not even just short men. It's short women who I'm noticing to be. This is like need to be loud. This is need to be just loud. Just always right and dominant and overpowering and exhausting. It's like they need to be this way. And I'm wondering, when does that stop? Is that just how they are? Like, is this a short problem that will just forever, that's just embedded into who they are? I don't know. But all I know is it's going to be a no. It's going to be a no for me. But I wish them the best. I do. I wish them the best. Okay, Vax Talk. That's literally the topic that I have. That's the name of the topic. Child, New York. It's actually very painful to learn about the news of the vaccine passport really being embedded and really being implemented in New York. And for those who may not know, vaccines are required, or proof of vaccine is required. So I feel like now there's probably some black market vax cards happening, and shit, I may need to order a couple. Cause the way, I don't know, I don't want to speak it out into existence, but I'm feeling like the way New York is moving, being that it's the mecca of America, it may bleed into other states, and I'm not looking forward to learning about any more similar news. But with New York, the De Blasio, who's whack as hell, decided to implement this mandate of vaccine. Proof of vaccine is required upon entry for every and any activity you could think of in New York. So going into restaurants, going to gyms, fitness centers, different activities that are also outdoors and indoors, just literally any and everything that you could do, you can only do if you are vaccinated and you have proof of that. It's just so disheartening. I feel like at this point, why? Like, when does it end? I don't know. And I don't want to live in a hysteria. I don't want to live in this fear-mongering disposition. Is just actually very disturbing seeing this mandate. And I think there's also this just like, well, there's this it's for the betterment of the human race, and it's for the protection and blah blah blah. It's really not. When we lose control and power, or seemingly so, right? Who knows, what is control? But when we lose that, it becomes a slippery slope. And next thing you know, we're North Korea. And so when I think about what New York is doing, I think about what else could be done. Don Lemon's ass talking about the unvaccinated should be shunned and they shouldn't be able to go to work and go to school. So you mean to tell me people who are unvaxxed because of their personal choice, their personal freedom, can't provide for their families, can't provide for themselves, can't because y'all want to mandate something? It's just so strange to me, because I think about, like, well, if you're vaxxed, if this vaccination is so effective, it should not matter whether person A, who is next to you, behind you, around you, it shouldn't matter if they're vaccinated or not. It really shouldn't, because you're vaccinated. You're good, you're covered, you're clear, right? So if this is so effective, why is this so pushed upon us? And then for reports to be said like, well, if you're vaccinated, you can still catch COVID. So what the fuck am I vaccinated then? Like, why are we still, how effective is it? This concoction that has been conjured up in 2 days is supposed to be effective, but it's not effective because you gotta get the vaccine in order for it to be effective. Oh, but no, you still gotta wear your mask, and you still have to be social distance, and you can still catch the COVID-19, and you can it's just like, so when is this over? That's what I want to know. Okay, when is this, like, when is the graduation date? When is this over? It doesn't make sense. And to question that, it just sucks that you have to kind of pick who to have this conversation. Like, you got to have this conversation in hush hush. Of course I'm going to have it on the podcast, of course. But I'm talking about, like, in real life. You got to figure out who around you is on the same wavelength as you. Because if you don't speak the same language of, I'm vaxxed and I'm waxed. If you don't speak that same language, then you're seen as an asshole. You're a fucking asshole. When ultimately, my body, my choice, right? You give me a choice to kill my baby, and y'all know I've had a change of heart about abortion. I've come a long way, right? Because, at one point I was very pro-choice, and now I am pro-life. Though I still am not someone who will go in front of abortion clinics and be like, you murderer. Like, I'm not doing that. But I am not for abortion anymore. So But I'm also just for some, like, I'm someone who's for personal freedom. I'm for pro-choice in that way. But when you take away the choice of an unborn child, that's not what I stand for anymore. I never stood for that necessarily, but I guess I did from previous rhetoric language that I've used. But anyway, when I think about pro-choice and all these things, like, we give such authority and freedom and understanding and compassion for literally killing a life. And this life is not considered a life because it's not born into this world yet. You don't see a physical body outside of you yet, but it's a life nonetheless, right? It's a life that still has to be cared for because it's considered a life while in the body, while in the woman's body, because the doctor is mandating you from not drinking alcohol anymore, not doing drugs, because it could affect this unborn life inside of you. So I think about just how very easygoing we are with abortion and pro-choice and all these things, but yet for this vaccination and having the personal choice, my body, my choice, we are lacking any room for understanding. We are lacking any room for just choice for that. And it's very disheartening. It's very uncomfortable. It's like I said, you really have to pick out, okay, who around me can I have this conversation with? And if you ask me, I'm gonna still say how I feel. It doesn't matter, but it's about like picking out. If you want to start off the conversation first and you talking about I'm anti-vax, right? There's a way to go about it, and you just have to figure out, use your discernment and see, is this person someone who's on the same wavelength, or am I going to be considered an asshole? So I don't know. And then people want to give their, I don't want to go into that. But anyway, The View has taken a left. It has taken a left turn for me, literally taken a left turn, because everyone on there has been, I realize, have been very leftist, and I've felt very uncomfortable watching The View after, I'm not saying post-pandemic, because we're still trying to navigate this shit, but it's not as fresh of a pandemic anymore. But I remember pre-pandemic how much I loved The View, like how much I was so into it, and just really into these ladies and their stance and their all of that. And I still appreciate that. I still appreciate seeing women being steadfast in their beliefs and their opinions and all these things. But I was really very much inspired by Meghan McCain, and though I didn't agree with some of the things that she said in previous conversations, I still appreciated how strong she was in her rhetoric. Like, that just inspired me. Like, oh, okay, bitch, I can do the same thing. Like, that's how I saw her as. And learning about the news of her not returning, ooh, that really hurt me. It really hurt me. But it is what it is. I respect it. She's a mother now, and this pandemic has changed the lives of all of us. So she's just looking at like what really matters to her. The new season will be back in the studio, and prior to that, the whole season during the pandemic, they've been zooming it up. They've been on Zoom, and Meghan has been living in Arizona, and I think she's in DC actually. So she has not been in New York, and she realized, you know what? I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to New York. I don't want to go back in the studio. I don't care to do it. I want to be with my baby girl. I want to be with my husband, and I respect it. I am certainly missing her already, even though she's still on. They finishing the season. I think the season has wrapped up, I believe. But I haven't been watching. I have not been watching The View in a few weeks now, and it's not like me, right? It's not like me. I used to talk about The View all the time. I used to talk about it on Instagram and do my rants and all these things, and it really turned me off. The View has turned me off because you have, and I'm just now seeing clips of Sunny Hostin saying that those who aren't vaccinated should be shunned. So they should be like, people who are not vaccinated should be shunned, should be not allowed, disallowed from participating in different activities and X, Y, and Z. And it's just so disturbing when people are actually in favor of divisiveness. It's so disturbing when people are actually in favor of dividing humanity. We're so caught up in different labels. Like, if you want to go back, back before COVID was a thing, there were other ways to divide people, and I still hated that, right? So like, there were other ways to divide people by, oh well, this person is a racist. And not to say that there aren't racists out there and you shouldn't necessarily just be best friends with racist people, but it's to say that there are white people who may have said some things that were racist and hateful when they were kids, but they've evolved and grown from it, right? And maybe they're more aware and conscious now, but because of what they said when they were 16, we could never be friends anymore. And it's like, what if people could change? You know, what if people could get better? And that's for anything, not just racism. So I think about that, and I think about like political parties. If you're not the same political party, if you don't have the same beliefs, then we need to be divided. If you are a Trumper, oh, you voted for Trump. Who did you vote for? Did you vote for Trump? Like, what happened to the time when we didn't even talk about who we voted for? What happened to the time when it was déclassé to mention politics in conversation? Like, what? I remember growing up and teachers were not allowed to share their political viewpoints, period. Never mind whatever it was, no matter how good of a news it was, they were not allowed. And I grew up in a Catholic school in Boston. And who knows if these people were undercover Trumpers or not. Who cares if Trumpers or not? But like, the point is, they couldn't share anything. I didn't know their religious viewpoints. I didn't know their political viewpoints. I didn't know they were gay. I think one of my teachers was gay, but I didn't know that because they weren't allowed to share that. We need to go back to that time. We need to go back to the time when you couldn't even mention election. It's just, okay, well, someone elected for this person the most, and that's the new president. So I think about now and how when Trump went into office, we immediately looked for people who could have voted for Trump. They look like Trumpers. She probably voted for Trump. That's why her ass voted for Trump. I knew she was racist. When it's like, why are we doing this? Like, we all have our own personal agendas. And it's not to say either way is wrong. A lot of people who voted for Trump are seen as, oh, well, they only look at things from one singular viewpoint. There's a saying that people will say about people who voted for Trump for economic reasons only. One single voter, single something. But basically, that was a lot of people's argument for voting for Trump, because he presented as someone who will grow the economy, who would create more jobs, who would allow for fathers, mothers, providers to provide for their families. So yeah, he may have said racist things, and yeah, he may be sexist, and yeah, he may have all these accounts of sexual assault, but is he going to create jobs so I can provide for my family? Okay, vote, because we don't hear enough about that. We, in comparison to who he was running against, there was not a confidence, a certainty that was made by his opponent. So, whether you agree with the vote or not, it's like, can we move out of our own perspective and recognize, okay, well, I can understand from your point of view. If I was standing in your shoes, if I was walking in your shoes, I could understand why you would think voting for him is the best that you thought could be for you and your family. So, and I'm saying all this to say, like, there were so many things to divide us, and now COVID is just another think to divide us. Are you a vaxxer or are you not? Are you anti-vax or are you not? Oh, you're not wearing your mask? Oh, we gotta shun this person because you're an asshole. My grandmother died because of you. Like, what? No, she had Alzheimer's. Like, child. Anyway, not to sound insensitive, but I just wish that we weren't so divisive. When the aliens come, what happens now? Are we gonna be like, well, you're an anti-vaxxer. I'm not gonna room with you to hide from the aliens. We don't get into my fucking house so we can bar these windows up to protect ourselves from these aliens before we become the purge. Okay. Obama decided to hold his 60th birthday party with 600 guests in Martha Vineyard. And man, Twitter had a day. Backlash was had, and there was some news afterwards that was reported that he decided to scale back and leave it to only close friends and family. But that, my friend, was a lie. According to the pictures that were posted of the party, we see a lot of close friends and family because Obama's close with her, the musician her. Obama's close with John Legend. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? And look, I don't want to shame people because if we're trying to move forward from the pandemic, we need to move forward from it. So go about and have your party and stuff. But my thing is, you can't have these elitists, and Obama is in that pool of people who want to shame or want to mandate this restrictive lifestyle, yet you want to have this extravagant 600 person party in Martha's Vineyard, which is on a tiny island, and allowing the people who actually live in the island, the residents there, to not be able to live comfortably for the next few days because they have to deal with the Secret Service, they have to deal with traffic, a shit show of traffic. That was an actual quote by a resident there, because Obama wanted to have his 600 person party for his 60th birthday. It's just very strange, and it reminds me of another story that I just read about AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or what's I saying? Whatever, AOC, who was hanging with her girlfriends, several of her girlfriends, and they were all unmasked, and then there was a picture right after the hangout that they took with the mask on, which is like, okay, it goes back to the whole performative thing that I'm talking about. We are fake. Everybody's fake. Nothing is real anymore. Like, my grandmother died because of you. You're shaming people for not following quote unquote CDC guidelines, yet you're not masked. You're not following everything to the T, and their excuse could be, well, I'm vaccinated. I'm one shot away from humanity or whatever. But even people say when you're vaccinated, you're not really cured. Like, it doesn't matter because you still shouldn't have all these people here, and we don't know. The language is inconsistent. There's inconsistency. And I just want to know one thing before I end this podcast. What do y'all think I'm gonna ask y'all? What do you think I'm gonna ask? What do you think I'm gonna ask? What do you think? Can you fight? Goodbye. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of God Built This Podcast with your host, Maxine. Be sure to leave a review, give me 5 stars, and of course, subscribe. Also, follow God Built This Podcast on Instagram at God Built This Pod. God bless.